21. Winter is starting to push in. The first storm hitting Angari last night. I'd forgotten the noise the town makes in the wind. The gates left open to swing and creak, all the loose roofing iron banging where the screws have rusted out. In a way, we don't mind the bad weather. It'll push the wilders back to Longley and hopefully keep them there for the winter. Kaz has spent the last few days moving in slow motion. I see small sparks in her when she's playing with Willow, a smile that escapes without her realising, or the way she scoops her hair behind her ear and looks up at me sometimes. Every now and again, she brushes past, maybe deliberately, maybe because we're so cramped in the house. But each time I reach out to hold her, she's gone. I feel the loss of Rose too, but compared to Kaz, I hardly knew her. Kaz sleeps with Willow, and sometimes I hear her crying in the night. In the mornings she looks as though she's hardly slept, her eyes red and her hair matted. Willow seems to have a way through to her that I don't. She crawls onto Kaz's lap and snuggles into her chest. Sometimes I wish I could do the same. To feel her body against mine again. To hold her and make the pain go away even just for a while. I started hunting the day after we got back from Ray's. We needed fresh meat and fish, but if I'm honest, I wanted to get back into some sort of routine too. There's comfort in it, doing what I know best without having to think about it. Whenever I head out, I ask Kaz if she wants to join me. She never does. Willow has become my shadow though. She likes getting out of the house, no matter how bad the weather. The ocean is too churned up for me to dive, but we can usually get some crabs out of the reef, and there are always rabbits to be caught. The traps were where I left them, hidden in the hollow log up by the fences. I brought them back home and greased them, making sure the plates and springs were easy to set. Then I fell back into my old pattern of laying the traps in the evenings and rising early to check them in the mornings. If it wasn't for Willow padding along behind me, I could almost believe it was just Rowdy and me again, the two of us keeping each other company, skirting around the back of the golf course and climbing the ridge to the fence lines. But I know there'll be no going back to that life. Everything changed the day Rose arrived. The first rabbit stew I cook draws Kaz out of her room. The smell fills the house. We haven't had fresh food since the abalone I caught before we went to Ray's. When the rabbit's cooked, we sit around the table and eat, slurping and crunching our way to the bottom of the pot. I think it's one of the best meals I've ever eaten. The wind is howling outside, and every few minutes squalls batter the roof with hailstones. When she's finished, Kaz pushes back her chair and crosses her arms. She hardly speaks now, so it surprises me when she says, "I've been thinking." "What?" I ask. "Do you reckon Ramage would have made it back to Longley?" "He had the trail bike. He could have taken Hope and that woman with him. The rest of the wilders could have followed. If these storms keep up, no one will be crossing the range for a couple of months at least." "We need to wait out the winter," she says, her voice loud against the hail. Then, I've known this was coming. I just didn't expect it so soon. "Then what?" "Find Hope and bring her back here," she says, the old steeliness returning to her voice. "And what about Ramage?" She clenches her fists and plants them on the table. "I'm going to hunt him down and kill him." The hail begins to ease to a steady rain. "You don't have to come if you don't want to," she adds. Somehow my answer is made simpler because I know I won't have to act on it straight away. It'll be months before we can travel. "If you're going, I'm going too," I say, avoiding her eyes. In the morning, I paddle out for the first time in weeks. The storm has backed off, but I know the next front won't be far away. With each duck dive and the feeling of the familiar surge underneath me, it's as though the events of the last month, the fear and the love and the death, are all washed clean, at least for a while. Rowdy keeps watch on the beach, chasing seagulls and snapping at the whitewater, like it's something he can catch. The swell is small but clean, and I surf wave after wave, each one bringing me closer to that balance that's been missing since the day Rose arrived. a balance that doesn't seem to exist on land anymore. Like it always does, the ocean stops time and only the exhaustion in my arms and shoulders tells me it's time to paddle in. Rowdy bounds out through the shore break to meet me, and I see two familiar faces sitting halfway up the dune. They rise slowly to their feet and walk down to the beach, their feet sinking in the soft, dry sand. As they come closer, Willow does a cartwheel, her blonde hair flying in the wind. Kaz hangs back, her eyes following each wave as it makes its way into the river mouth. "Do you reckon you could teach me how to do that?" she asks.